Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. I've got an update here on the Illinois case, and there's a lot of information, and I want to thank our source so much. I mean, thank you, sweetie. We appreciate everything because I know, not only are you working full-time, you got family and everything else, and I know this was a lot to go through and a lot to read. My goodness, hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents. Now, as far as us being able to get all documents in the future, I want to mention that a new state statute went into effect in Illinois on January 1st, 2022 that requires the circuit clerk to protect the victim's name in all cases involving criminal, CSA. The documents will need to be redacted so no victim information is available and they are not viewable online anymore. So we're not sure, how that's going to affect us being able to get these documents, if we're going to have to do a Freedom of Information Act form and they're going to have to redact all of that, or if they're just going to be sealed. We do not know. So we'll find out. We will not be releasing the transcripts at this time because of, that. We do have a few documents, but I'm not sure what I can release and what I can't. And so, we'll try to get that worked out. So thank you, sweetie. We appreciate everything that you have done for us. And I will have to admit that in reading some of this, I got to laughing so hard because it's like, Watchtower, you are so done. You cannot hide your past and your present. There's too many documents and history of yours out there. You can't hide any of this. But see, they keep trying to hide it from the court. If Watchtower was honest, like they claim they are in all of this, they would just release all of these documents that the court wants and needs. So anyway, I am just going to read the summary that she has sent us. Like I said, appreciate it very much. Brief summary of transcript of December 16th court hearing. A copy of this transcript is not being released to the public at this time because the judge ultimately sealed the courtroom when the victim's mother was cross-examined. Because there have been so many motions entered by the parties in this case, the first 15 pages of the transcript are back and forth conversations between the judge and all of the attorneys trying to determine and come to an agreement on what was actually going to be considered and heard at this hearing. The state's attorney stated that it was important for all to understand that the grand purpose of this hearing is to determine whether or not certain communications relative to the case came under the clergy-patent privilege, and that the documents subpoenaed by the state relative to the Judicial Committee meeting still have not been produced, and that neither the court nor the state's attorney have even been allowed to see, hear, or read these documents. And then if the court is to make a determination as to whether or not these communications are privileged, how can the court do that if even the court is not allowed to see, hear, or read the documents in question? Good point. And like I've stated before, these Illinois prosecuting attorneys are brilliant. Defendant Pencave's attorney, Philip Prosnitz, then called the attorney who was brought in from New York representing the Watchtower organization, John O'Miller III, to the stand and began the direct examination of Attorney Miller. Okay, this is Watchtower's lawyer. They discussed how elders are appointed, and he stated that all of the paralegals and attorneys in Watchtower's legal department are elders. That's interesting because, we read a letter how went out to anybody who had any legal, and I know of a couple of women lawyers that work in the Watchtower legal department.
So now, we do appreciate the work done by those in the legal department, the work you've done on the case.
Interesting. Attorney Prosnitz attempted to summarize the clergy penitent process of Jehovah's Witnesses by describing it as the meeting, the confrontation, the counseling, the meeting with the wife, reporting to headquarters, creation of the handwritten notes, the typed up judicial committee report, as all of the stages of the Jehovah's Witness clergy penitent process. Attorney Miller was asked whether there is a document that serves as a checklist or outline for the clergy penitent process in the Jehovah's Witness faith. Attorney Prosnitz then handed to Attorney Miller several pages from Shepherd the Flock of God book, which Miller described as a book the elders are given to learn how to procedurally handle their job as an elder, and all the reasons why a committee may have to be formed, how to conduct a judicial committee meeting, who would be involved, what the elders were supposed to be looking for, etc. The problem here was that the pages Attorney Prosnitz were presenting and relying on were from 2010. And this is when I started laughing. Okay, so they tried to hand over these elders manual pages from 2010. And we know that the abuse started back in 2004, if I remember correctly. 2004, 2006, something like that. I think it was 2004. And the judge found that those documents would not even have been relevant in 2006 at the time of the Judicial Committee meeting and did not want to admit them into evidence. Awesome. You can see why I was laughing. The state cross-examined the Watchtower's representative, Attorney Miller, and stated that what we're looking for is whether or not there's instructions, a written procedure of some kind on how to handle the CSA reports, and then asked Attorney Miller about the Watchtower's legal department and service department. Attorney Miller responded that the legal department is a department of Watchtower. Now listen carefully to the way the Watchtower lawyer is describing all of this and the different corporations. That's important. But that the service department, now known as the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, is not considered a department of Watchtower. Oh, really? You see how these tricky devils are trying to spin this? Is not considered a department of Watchtower, but is considered a department of the U.S. branch, and that it is a corporation that was established in 2001. The state attorney asked Attorney Miller whether the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses was to replace Watchtower because Watchtower had been named in a number of lawsuits. Attorney Miller replied, no, it was because Watchtower is a publisher. You get that? Read that again. Attorney Miller replied, no, it was because Watchtower is a publisher. And so the Jehovah's Witness religion was becoming known as a disseminator of publications more so than as a religion. See, they're not a religion, they're a publisher. Right out of Watchtower lawyer's own mouth. And so it was deemed that by forming a Christian congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, it would be more understood that we're not just about publishing, which Watchtower still does, we're more about preaching. Yeah, whatever, dude. The state's attorney was aware of the existence of the 1991 publication, which was used to instruct elders. I wonder where they got that. And right here, I'm going to thank Atlantis and all of his sources very much, because without you guys, none of this would have been possible. So thank you. Thank you. And this community owes you guys a lot. A lot. The state attorneys was aware of the existence of the 1991 publication, which was used to instruct elders, and Attorney Miller replied that he did not think that it addressed any more than call the legal department relative to a CSA matter. It was then established that before 1991, informational and instructional letters were sent to elders. I wonder where they got those too. The state's attorney then presented letters from the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York dated March 14, 1997. Sorry, I get emotional with this. And February 15, 2002, which went to all bodies of elders. And Attorney Miller confirmed that those letters contained instructions which were in effect and followed by elders in 2006. See, all the sources that have leaked this information, priceless. Priceless. Although defendant Pinkeva's attorney objected to entering the older letters into evidence, well, of course, claiming they were irrelevant, the judge had a copy of at least one of those letters in the documents that the court was permitted to view in camera. And the state's attorney argued that if the judge already had a copy of that letter, then that letter was relevant. But the judge sustained Attorney Prosnit's objection, saying, I don't know what was in place in 2006. The state's attorney asked Attorney Miller about elders' contact with the Watchtower's legal department and asked whether these lawyers are licensed in every state in the country. And that was my question to the prosecuting attorneys. You know, are Watchtower lawyers certified and able to legally give legal advice in all 50 states in this country? Brilliant. Not me, the attorneys. To which Attorney Miller replied that he couldn't say, and then the state's attorney asked whether any of them were licensed in Illinois. To which Attorney Miller began to reply, I have no... ... At which time defendant Pinkeva's attorney interrupted and a full answer was not given to that question. They're not going to answer that. They're not going to answer that. In answer to further questions, Attorney Miller stated that he had never spoken with either of the defendants, was not the attorney who took the 2000 call from these elders to the legal department, and in fact had only met them that day. Well, I thought they had subpoenaed the lawyer that they actually talked to at the legal department back in 2006. Wasn't that who the court was expecting to show up to testify? Attorney Miller, who is part of the Watchtower's legal department, was then asked whether he knew if elders are certified in the state of Illinois by the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services or any agency with respect to mandated reporting, and whether elders received any training with respect to reporting CSA cases in the state of Illinois. To which Attorney Miller replied that he didn't know. Then what good is he? See, just like Watchtower's entire legal department and governing body, they are totally useless. Hide, 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 lie, lie, lie. I don't know. He was also asked whether Jehovah's Witnesses have your own certification of elders after they've been trained in child abuse law, to which Attorney Miller asked, what is a certification? Oh my God. I guess they really are that stupid. Or they're just playing dumb. Good thing Mikey's not here. He would be ranting. After all of that cross-examination of the Watchtower's attorney, the state attorneys then made a motion to strike all of the testimony of Mr. Miller as irrelevant. You hear that, Watchtower? Your lawyer is irrelevant. Because Miller had no communication with either defendant, not knowing what was said to them, not even knowing who said what to them, and that Illinois has a clergy penitent doctrine that may be different than that of the Jehovah's Witness Church. Love it. Love it. About time. Truth is being exposed. The state's attorney then called the victim's mother, Eloina Hernandez, to the stand. However, at this point, the judge sealed, closed, and emptied the courtroom with the exception of only the relevant parties, because he was not sure of how sensitive her testimony might be and determined that her testimony, which should not be available to the public. The state attorney's question to her would establish whether or not the victim's mother was even part of a clergy penitent process. The state's attorney argued that neither the Watchtower's clergy penitent process, nor Attorney Miller's testimony, nor the defendants, nor their attorneys, or any witness they may call get to determine what the privilege is. Love it. It's Illinois law that does. See, Watchtower is not above the law, even though they think they are. God's law is higher than the man's law. No, you still should be obeying the superior authorities like you've been telling the Jehovah's Witness rank and file to do the past 2 years. Hypocrites. Ugh. The judge agreed, stating that Watchtower's representative Attorney Miller does not get to decide whether Illinois law applies in this case, but that he, the judge, makes that decision. Yeah, because he's trained and certified in Illinois law, not Watchtower. An order was entered on December 16th, continuing the matter to December 17th for oral argument on defendant's motion to quash. Brief summary of transcript of December 17, 2021 continued court hearing. This hearing was held for closing arguments on the original hearing of December 16, 2021. The judge stated that the purpose of the hearing was to address the status of the state subpoena for records which were to be produced by August 31st, 2021. Epic failure. Which documents have not yet been produced. Good luck with that. Attorney Prosnett stated that they would be reviewing and discussing the testimony of the victim's mother, Eloina Hernandez, and asked that the courtroom be sealed. Attorney Prosnett stated that the issue to be discussed is whether or not a subpoena seeking judicial committee minutes from a Jehovah's Witness process, a part of a confessional process, should be suppressed, protected, and not disseminated. He again referred to the Campobello case where the decision was the religious freedom guaranteed by the First Amendment encompasses the power of religious bodies to decide from themselves, free from state interference, matters of church government as well as those of faith and doctrine. He then cited another case, Thodos, where the court held that if a member of the clergy had waived his or her privilege, but a penitent had not waived it, the clergy penitent privilege would still apply and privileged information cannot be disclosed. All parties would have to agree to such a waiver, and in the Pinkava-Scott case, there are multiple parties, none of whom have waived their privilege. No one has waived their privilege. So disclosure of privileged information to third parties would not take place, and that the whole confessional process described by the Watchtower's attorney, John Miller, was followed by defendant Pinkava, that he did it by the book, and that book is the Bible. The state's attorney argued that the judge has been asked to rule on whether some documents are admissible without even being able to view the documents that he is being asked to rule on, and that unless the judge has an opportunity to review the documents, he cannot determine whether any of those documents are privileged and inadmissible. Exactly. How can you rule on something like that when you don't even know what is in those documents? Doesn't take a rocket scientist or a, university trained lawyer. The state's attorney then went on to say that in the process described by the Watchtower's attorney Miller, the first step is to call the Watchtower's legal department to seek legal advice. Not any advice with respect to how to spiritually develop a penitent. And that is important. See? To seek legal advice. That's why the elders call the legal department, to get legal advice. This has nothing to do with the penitent. Develop a penitent. That confessional. Ugh. The sin. He also stated that in the court cases cited by Attorney Prosnett, and particularly in the Campobello case, the court rejected the diocese's attempt to conjure a right to secrecy, and with it immunity from the state's subpoena power simply by pointing to the veil it has case over itself, just like Watchtower. And he went on to state that that's exactly what's happening here. I agree, dude. The Jehovah's Witness Church is attempting to cast a veil over itself and give itself immunity from subpoena power. The state's attorney directed the judge's attention to the subpoena in question and read the response from the Crystal Lake Spanish Congregation secretary that the documents requested contained private communications with an attorney and the confessional information. So in addition to confessional information, there are communications with an attorney for legal advice. Oh my goodness. Which communications have not been, but should be, produced. The state's attorney also said that the reason public acts are in place is to protect children who cannot protect themselves, especially in the heinous act of CSA. I totally agree. That should be the ultimate, goal, is to protect children. Don't let these organizations dictate the law and try to hide it, and not protect children. The state's attorney asked the court to review all of the communications with Watchtower's legal department, communications with the service department, and if the judge believes that those communications were for the purpose of developing the penitent spiritually, then the state would agree that they fall under the privilege. Yeah, give them to the court. Let them decide if it's part of the clergy penitent privilege. The judge said he was going to reserve judgment, and a further hearing was set for December 23, 2021. An order was entered on December 17th, continuing the matter to December 23rd for a decision on the defendant's motion to quash subpoena duces tecum, subpoena for documents. On December 21st, 2021, the state filed another motions in limine requesting the court to allow the testimony of the victim's mother, which the defendants were attempting to bar from admission in this case. A brief summary of the state's meeting with the mother is attached to this motion. On December 23rd, 2021, the defendant's attorney entered a waiver by the defendant Pinkava to allow him to appear at the hearing via Zoom, which motion was granted. Brief summary of transcript of December 23, 2021 court hearing. The judge began to speak about his review of the motion to quash filed by the defendant's attorney relative to the documents the defendants do not wish to produce, which are the documents and reports from the July 27, 2006 Judicial Committee meeting with the victim's father who committed this crime against his 6-year-old daughter. The judge stated that after his review of the testimony and evidence in this case, he found that the defendants Pinkava and Scott are considered clergy for the purpose of Illinois law, that Jehovah's Witnesses have in place a process for dealing with sinners, and that when the elders discussed the case with the Watchtower's legal department, and when the elders spoke with the victim's mother about the matter, that did not waive or destroy the clergy penitent privilege being relied upon in the Pinkava-Scott case. On December 23, 2021, an order was entered which allowed the state to amend its motion to introduce the mother's testimony, giving the defendant until January 7, 2022 to reply, approving some relief for the defendant as redacted, and setting a further hearing for January 28, 2022, and trial on this matter on March 2nd and March 4th, 2022. On December 28, 2021, the state entered an amended motion in limine requesting that statements made by the victim's mother be entered and that the state be given additional time to review the transcripts of 2 previous hearings in order to file a motion in limine on January 7th, giving the defendant until January 21st, 2022 to respond, and the state being prepared for a hearing on this motion on January 28, 2022. On December 30th, an order was entered permitting the above. So there you have it. Thank you very much, sweetie, for all the hard work that you had to read through all of this. My goodness, I've seen how many pages are in all of these documents, and it's like, oh, good grief, that's a lot. That's a lot. So, like I said, I will sort all this out to see what can be made public and what cannot, because of that new law that went into effect, or I should say statute that went into effect in Illinois. And like I said, I don't know, what the future is going to be as far as us being able to get all of these documents. We'll just have to wait and see. And, if we can make them public or not, we don't know that either at this time. So thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. I know it was a long one, and a lot of, court stuff, but appreciate you, watching, and we'll keep everybody updated on this case and the Montana one. And you have a great week. Bye.